Hello there, and hope you are doing well. As predicted in my previous video, I am at home. We have had a number of cases here in Hong Kong, not that many to be perfectly honest, but there is a system now whereby if you test positive or you are close to a contact who tests positive, you can spend some time in a government quarantine facility, which isn't exactly the most fun place to be, particularly someone like me who likes technology, gadgets and being able to move around. I couldn't just sit in one space and just stare into space blankly for 21 days. So a lot of people staying home, people working from home, and so you've got a completely different background. Here I am at home again. Not many places to put a camera in my apartment, I have to stress. There are records to the left of me, records to the right. I'm stuck in the middle with you with records behind me. Hope you got the reference. But I'm not here to talk about records. If you enjoy vinyl, you can just stay out the background trying to figure out what records I've got in my collection. This is only, incidentally, a small part. It's from R to, I think it's to the beginning of S, just behind me, which is a bit scary, but there we go. But I'm here to talk about something that does begin with S, and that is smart contracts. What are they? How do they work? A quick explainer. Before I talk about those, do you know what a contract is? Now, I think you're thinking, Paul, of course we know what a contract is. We enter into them all the time. And yes, you do. I bet you barely go through a day, if you leave the house at least, probably even if you don't leave the house, without entering into a contract. Whenever you buy or order or do anything with anyone where you're ordering services, goods, well, it's broader than that these days, you will be entering into contract everywhere you go. Contracts do not have to be in writing. Often people think if I don't sign something, it means there's no valid contract. No, that's not true. Unless the contract says it has to be signed, chances are you've entered into a contract without knowing all of the time. And we all do enter into contracts getting on a bus. You enter into a contract taking your things to dry cleaning. You enter into a contract ordering food for takeout. You enter into a contract buying something online. You enter into a contract going to a shop, buying something there, enter into a contract all of the time. So what are the legal elements? At their very most basic, and I'm giving you very, very basic Law School 101, you have an offer, an acceptance, and a consideration. An offer is saying, I want this thing, I want to be bound into a contract for you to do this thing, essentially offering someone that you will enter into a contract. Acceptance is the person saying, yep, I will give you this thing, I will do this thing for you, I will make sure that whatever offer you've made, I will accept it. Offer and acceptance together are a contract. There is one more element, and that is consideration. That is, what do you pass between the two parties in terms of that contract to be effective? What does someone get? So the obvious example, I suppose, if you go into a shop. If you go into a shop and buy something, you offer to purchase something, the shopkeeper accepts it. The consideration is you paying the money for the goods and the goods going back to you. You have both received consideration. If there is a failure of consideration, then the contract itself may fail. And it's all pretty simple, isn't it? And you're thinking, I can see how this would work in the realm of technology and how we would have smart contracts. But Paul, what are they? Well, smart contracts are essentially just taking the structure of a contract, the offer and the acceptance, and putting it online, or putting it into a way that it's automated. It doesn't really have to be online. In fact, the example that people normally give, the earliest example, and the one that you will find if you Google this on Wikipedia, is that of a vending machine. If you could have a vending machine, say you want a delicious beverage, you put in your money, you choose whatever you're going to be drinking, you press the button and it comes out. It's all automated. It all happens with just the only thing you have to do is initiate the contract at the very beginning by putting in the money and I suppose making the offer. If the contract wasn't going to go through, suppose there weren't any of the particular beverage you want in place, the offer would not be accepted. You wouldn't be delivered it and you would get your money back. So the contract would never be formed. Pretty simple stuff, right? So how does this actually work in the realm of smart contracts? Now, they are designed to try and make entering into a contract and fulfilling what is required by that contract to all be done by pure automation, taking the vending machine example and applying it to any sort of contract. And it's pretty cool because actually, although contracts to buy and sell things where you're going to a shop are pretty straightforward, think about how much money lawyers make, right? They're not making that just by doing sales contracts to buy cans of Diet Coke or what have you. They are very, very long contractual documents, and a really long contractual document can be pages and pages and pages and pages and pages and pages and files, and in some cases can fill almost a room in terms of what is in the contract, with specification of what you're going to be delivering, what's going to be done, particularly systems contracts where you've got precise mechanisms for exactly what system you're buying, what it will do, how it will work. It can be very complicated indeed. And how do you automate them? Well, the plan with a smart contract is that everything will be put into an automated system. And the most popular thing, and I think the people talk about the most, is blockchain. Now, why do they talk about blockchain? Blockchain's cool because everyone now associates it with cryptocurrency and they think, well, I'm going to make my absolute fortune either buying Bitcoin, selling Bitcoin, or buying little cute NFTs of cutesy animals, which I will sell on for a huge markup. The metaverse, which I've covered previously, is most likely going to be built on NFTs the way things are going, because it seems like people are willing to pay an inordinate amount of money to live in a virtual house next to a virtual house that is owned by Snoop Dogg. But there we go. But the fact that blockchain does allow, depending on the blockchain, some are better than others. Ethereum seems particularly well suited to this, but we'll see. But blockchains allow for more than just basic information to be transmitted. You could attach documents to the blockchain. You can store anything in the blockchain. Then you can see how it be automated. You say, right, we're going to enter into this contract. I will pay you this much for this thing. Let's say it's an NFT. Once the payment is received by you, the NFT will automatically be transferred by me. You agree to that. Goes into a smart contract, and then it's automated. As soon as the payment is received in the person's account, in their crypto account, the NFT is then transferred to the person who bought it. Pretty cool, right? Now this, it doesn't have to be in the blockchain. You can have any sort of protocol, any sort of communication system to do this. Hence, a vending machine is never in the blockchain. But it only really works at present for things that can be easily automated. If you're buying something on Amazon, this isn't being done on a blockchain. Amazon is just the obvious example, because I seem to be buying lots of stuff on Amazon in lockdown, helping Jeff Bezos go into space even more times. But if you buy something on Amazon, essentially, there's not much going on in the background that isn't really a smart contract. You purchase something online, you make the offer when you place the order. When the order is dispatched, the acceptance takes place, consideration passes across until they take your money, and then you get shipped the goods. So it's a smart contract without blockchain. And they, I think, could work in all sorts of different areas. The problem we have is when things get more complicated. Now, the most praised suggestion would be revolutionizing the property market and the way that property transactions take place in terms of putting those into the blockchain. Now, have you ever bought a house? Chances are, if you live in Hong Kong, you probably haven't, unless you've got lots and lots of money, because even somewhere as small and as tightly crammed as this is very expensive. But if you buy a house, you will know there are lots and lots of steps in the chain. The ultimate end of it, you just exchange contracts, and then eventually you complete and the property is yours. But in the process of that, lots and lots of documents have to pass between the parties. They could be put into a blockchain. It is no reason why it couldn't happen. But at the same time, people worry that blockchain's great for it because it's tamper-proof. Essentially, nobody can alter what's on that blockchain and say, well, this bit of the contract was completed even when it wasn't. But it does tend to be publicly viewable. So there's an issue that perhaps people will see these transactions taking place. In some cases, they may see the documents that are on the blockchain, depending on how you're storing them. But it doesn't have to be. And there's no reason why a smart contract can't be automated, whereby you're essentially creating a program where if X condition is achieved, the next step happens. If next condition is achieved, the next step happens. A simple computer program then allows for contractual relations to be formed and take place. Okay, that was a lot of information. Are you with me? But at its very, very basic, a smart contract is an automated system whereby people enter into legal contractual relations, offer an acceptance, and transmission, if possible, of goods takes place on a blockchain or in an automated system. I must stop using blockchain, but it doesn't have to. There are lots of people who think this is the future, and I will be honest with you, smart contracts are being used all of the time. You're just not necessarily seeing them yet. When you're buying anything that is a digital good, most likely this is happening by way of a smart contract. You initiate it by making your order, then everything else happens automatically. But there are reasons why it can't happen in the real world, why it can't happen in the most complex things, at least not yet. And that is the fact that people are, to be honest, quite difficult, and contracts can be quite complicated. Litigation lawyers, of which I am one, as well as a contracts lawyer, as well as a technology lawyer, have made an absolute fortune and spend a lot of billable hours trying to work out what was meant by the wording in a contract. A smart contract has to be simple and straightforward in order for it to work. You have to be able to follow, and a machine has to be able to follow exactly what triggers each step in the contract, and when the contract concludes, and when things get transferred, or when the deal is done. Given that you can spend weeks, months, in some cases years of your life in a contract arguing over what was actually meant when the contract was entered into. Shareholder disputes in particular are great for this, incidentally, if you're wondering, but certainly delivery or failed delivery of systems is also great for this. Then you can see how it may not work. But for simple, basic day-to-day life, smart contracts are already here. Will they make it into the future? I don't know. There are some debates as to whether a smart contract should actually be something capable of entering into legal relations, whether it would be a valid contract. I don't really agree with those movements at all. I think because you can enter into a contract just by agreeing orally with someone or sending an email to someone, there's no reason why, as long as you indicate you're willing to be bound, you can't enter into a smart contract and do it all digitally as well. But we'll see. I would be interested in things that you think would be suitable and things that would be a great use for a smart contract system. What would be good to take the model of offer, acceptance, consideration, and throw it into a piece of code and make sure that everything happens essentially without having to deal with lots of lawyers and lots of people arguing, although, as I've said before, in a complex transaction that's normally impossible. I'd wonder whether we can ever get to a stage where anything above either a technology, very straightforward or relatively straightforward technology transaction, or a simple day-to-day transaction such as purchasing goods or purchasing services. But even with services, you could argue, have those services been delivered? Who decides? Is the computer going to decide? But I wonder whether anything more that's any more complicated than that could ever actually make it into a smart contract. I don't see why not. Think about AI solutions, but then you get into the realm of an AI decides whether or not the contract has actually been concluded, whether someone should get paid for what they've done. It doesn't take you too much longer to get to William Gibson and artificial intelligence judges, and we all get a bit scared of stuff, but don't see why that couldn't be done. Anyway, I hope that helps. That was blockchain. That was smart contracts, not blockchain. Stop saying blockchain. I'm being brainwashed into blockchain. But that was smart contracts in a very much of a nutshell. If you would like more info, do let me know, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Who knows whether I'll be back in this room, in this setting, and trying to balance a camera on some hi-fi speakers, which is exactly what I'm doing next time we meet, but maybe I will. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you soon.